Hello everybody, good evening, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as we discuss the end of the Glazers. Question mark. That's not a question to me. I'm not self-reflecting, but there is a lot of reason to believe that Manchester United are going to go through a seismic change over the next few days, weeks and months, with the Glazer reign probably over, even if they stay in control. What does that all mean? We'll talk about that. Also, an interesting story coming out from Germany tonight that Bayern Munich are interested in taking Raphael Varane. How likely is that? We're also going to talk about something I read today, which was from a financial lecturer, basically saying that Manchester United need to turn around very, very quickly because brand success will sink the club without football success. We'll talk about that as well. We're also going to talk about the no top four ramifications. I want to do a bit of an interactive poll with you. I saw something today, but I thought, no, we'll ask the United Stand community what they think about that before we move forward on that. How Amrabat is a very significant signing for Manchester United in relation to if he works, Ten Hag looks good. If he doesn't work, Ten Hag looks bad and the system around him looks bad. Also, very interesting comments from Andros Townsend coming in with saying that Manchester United were really hard to play against at Old Trafford and liken us to Liverpool. We'll talk about that as well. So lots to get into on the show tonight. The question I'm going to ask, I'm not going to talk about it yet, but I just want you to answer this in the poll. Will United get top four? And then we're going to talk about this Glazer thing. So will United get top four? Yes or no? Get involved in that. Right, let's talk about this Glazer thing. Is this to be the end of the Glazers at Manchester United? Well, first of all, we need the announcement. We know Sir Jim Ratcliffe is buying 25% of Manchester United. We'd hoped it was going to be today, but I did say to you last night, we'd been told it was highly unlikely to be today. And lo and behold, it hasn't been today. So that's obviously good information. We've also been told it's not sounding like it's going to be tomorrow either. Now, I'm like you. I don't like the information. I don't want the information to be true. But at the moment, it looks like it might not be tomorrow either. Now, the anticipation is that it will be done before Thanksgiving on Thursday, which means Wednesday will be the day. But I still, like today, hold out hope that it could happen tomorrow. But if it's not tomorrow, it's going to be Wednesday. I've got to be honest, I'm starting to suspect this might be a little bit of a damp squib. And what I mean by that is we may already know what we're going to know. Not my words, the words of somebody in the industry who said that to me today, who was a journalist, and they said, we might know what, you might already know you might already know everything you're going to know. They've been pretty close to this deal in relation to putting stuff out there for a long time. And they basically said, look, because I was saying, I just want the detail. I want to know what it is. And they said, but at the end of the day, it could just be Sir Jim Ratcliffe has bought 25%. He wants to run the footballing side of things and his plan is to buy all of the club. And that might be all you get tomorrow or Wednesday. You might not get anything more than that. I hope we do, but let's be clear. If this news comes out on Wednesday, we're basically previewing Everton from Thursday. So there's not going to be a lot of time to digest it. Eric Ten Hag will be doing a press conference on Friday. But look, we need that information. It's Thanksgiving week in the US, and I wanted to say thanks to you and the rest of the United Stand community for keeping my head above water this season, says Bryce. Well, thank you very much to you, mate, for being a member for 55 months. And Marvin says PR video and PR script incoming, says Marvin. Look, I hope you're right. I hope we do get a lot of information. But I do just want to say this. You know, I still sit in the same position wearing the same hat. I think there are people out there that just did not want Qatar. They did not want that sort of a deal at all. And therefore they wanted Sir Jim. And justifiably, they probably feel quite self-righteously that they won because they did win. They had nothing to do with it, but what they chose that did win. Sir Jim Ratcliffe represents keeping the Glazers in power. And until he does. You know, he simply does. I'm coming to terms with it, but I need to know the full detail of it. I don't like this deal. I've never liked this deal. The fact that people keep saying to me, oh, you're getting used to the Sir Jim Ratcliffe deal. I am getting used to it. You know, if that's just reality of life. Life isn't fair. You don't always get what you want. I wanted a full sale. I wanted the Glazers out. And we may well regret in years to come that we didn't sell the club to Qatar, who would have put us on a different planet, really. We might regret that. We might not. I hope we don't regret it. But what I will say is, to be successful under Sir Jim Radcliffe is going to be very, very, very difficult. He has got no blueprint of being successful in football. His only blueprint in football was trying to buy Chelsea twice, trying to buy half of Barcelona, buying Nice and a Swiss side. There is no blueprint of success. Some people might say, well, there was no blueprint of success for Abu Dhabi with Man City, and that's, perfectly good example. But all we know is this guy's going to work with the Glazers. I don't like that. So we await further information. But what I will say is, from a Glazer point of view, when you look at it, and this information's out there, is this the end of the Glazer reign? And in a way, you've got to say that it is. Because, and this information's all out there. We're not speculating here. Welcome to the Members Club, Michael Brown, you're a legend. When you think about Manchester United over the last 10 years, and longer, but certainly the last 10 years, the structure around any manager, whether it be Van Gaal, Jose, Ollie, Ten Hag, is Glazer. Richard Arnold was a Glazer facilitator. Ed Woodward was a Glazer facilitator. John Murtagh has only been in a director of football for the last couple of years, but had been here since the days of David Moyes, and therefore was well liked within the club, and therefore he's part of the Glazer regime. The Glazers run Manchester United in a very loose way from America. Joel Glazer apparently spoke to the CEO on a regular basis, but the CEO ran the club, whether it was Ed Woodward or Richard Arnold, and they were definitely Glazer facilitators. As I recall the story, Ed Woodward, Richard Arnold and Matt Judge all went to university together, and I think they all worked at the bank that helped the Glazers buy Man United. So we are moving away from that. Ed Woodward's gone, Matt Judge has gone, and Richard Arnold's gone. And they were all supporters of the Glazers. So regardless of what this ownership structure is, and regardless of what the future of it is, even if the Glazers stay for 10 years or forever, whilst Sir Jim Radcliffe works on the footballing side of things, the Glazers' reign over the football side of things is basically over. Because Sir David Brailsford, who's going to work more hands-on than Sir Jim, is Sir Jim's guy. Jean-Claude Blanc, who is going to be the CEO, works for Ineos. He moved to Ineos in December last year via PSG and via Juventus. He is an Ineos guy. He's employed by Ineos as their head of sport and works in tandem with Sir David Brailsford. So whatever's going to happen with United and however long the Glazers are going to be here, their grip on the day-to-day running of the football club from a footballing side is over. It's factually over, because you're going to have Blanc, you're going to have Sir David Brailsford, you're going to have Paul Mitchell, and these are all going to be Sir Jim Radcliffe's guys or picks. So the Glazers are basically giving up that side of things, aren't they? They're giving it up. And why would they give it up? Because they want some money at the end of it. But the whole structure around Manchester United is about to change. And all the Glazer facilitators that were in the roles are basically going to be gone. That doesn't mean the future's bright, the future's orange. That does not mean that at all. All I'm saying is you have to observe the change that's going to happen. And you have to observe that the people are coming in are not coming in because the Glazers have picked them. They're coming in because Sir Jim Radcliffe has picked them. 500 million a season Ineos shirt sponsorship incoming, says Michael Vine. Well, we don't want to be getting into trouble, do we? We don't want to be the next one in trouble. How can Sir Jim Radcliffe run the football side when Glazers are still majority owners and control commercial side? They can still control what we spend, and I'm concerned, says Jared. Well, look, this is what I was about to say. I believe that we are going to see a big change in the way the day-to-day running of the football club is done. And that football word is very, very key, because Blanc as CEO, football, Ineos, Sir Jim guy. Director of football, Paul Mitchell, Sir Jim guy. Sir David Brailsford, Sir Jim guy. And I think that football pie is going to be run by Sir Jim. Obviously, Joel Glazer will have a say on what can be spent and what can't be spent, and the commercial side will still be run by the Glazers. The thing is, and the most important thing is, yes, we're going to see a very big change in the way the footballing side is run. We may reduce the wage bill. We may not buy the same sort of players. We may improve the fitness department, Carrington. We may even improve on the football pitch. We might change the manager. We might sell a load of players. Who knows what we're going to do? And there will be a change in the football side of things. But that will have a ceiling. It will have a ceiling based on investment. That is key. And there may well be an improvement, but you might become Brighton instead of Man City. Because if you run everything really well, but you don't have the funds to compete, you will be Brighton. If you run everything really well and you do have the funds to compete, you can be Man City. And that's an answer we can't leap upon. And I think some people want to leap on it and some people want to leap onto a negative. I think we can't leap upon it yet, because even if you're a well-run football club, doesn't mean you compete with the best. I'll go back to what I said to you in January. Like it or lump it, because of the way the club's been run for the last 10 years, the only way to fix it is billions of pounds going into it. Now, if we haven't got that going in, I don't care who the CEO is, who the director of football is, or what the intentions are. If you're not going to pump 4 or 5 billion into that club over the next 5 years, we won't compete. We won't be able to compete. So, look, that's something we need to wait and see. But I think the future's uncertain, is what I would say. The future is uncertain, but the Glazer reign of running things is over. I think we're going to see a different direction. I think we're going to see improvement around the infrastructure of the football side, but that won't guarantee success. Just because we're a well-run football club doesn't guarantee us success. If we get rid of the deadwood and we reduce the wage bill and we are able to be more competitive in the transfer market, that doesn't mean you can compete with Newcastle and Man City with their billions. That doesn't mean you can compete with Pep and Klopp, who are better. It just makes us a little bit more competitive and in a very competitive league. So, look, it'll be very interesting. Also, we have to do this as well. I mean, I don't want to signpost two really concerning things. Point one, Manchester United are a commercial success as a brand. They are. We could be better, but we are. You look at the deals that we even did in the last 18 months. We've got a new shirt sponsor. The Adidas deal's good. We are still a commercial success as a brand. But how long can you be a commercial success as a brand when you're not a success on the football pitch? Because I think there is a tipping point. And my point is this. If you're just a commercial success on the name Manchester United, at some point, every day, it deteriorates. Because people are born, people die, and new football fans aren't going to choose Manchester United just because they've got a deal with Adidas and a nice football kit with a good sponsor on the front. They're going to support Man City because they like what Haaland's doing. They're going to support Liverpool because they like Salah. They're going to support Real Madrid because they like Bellingham. The next wave of generation won't support Manchester United, which will hurt you in the longer term. Also, if you're not playing good football, the TV stations aren't going to go, let's put Man United on against Aston Villa. No, let's not do that. Let's put Spurs on against Newcastle. And that's the changing of football. We are probably on the TV less than we used to. We're still on the TV a lot, but I think it's always a good gauge of where you are, because I remember the times up until recently where Man United Fulham would be on. You know, Man United Everton would be on. Man United. I mean, I know those two games this season have been, but I'm saying, you know, virtually every United game would be on. I think it's starting to change. Newcastle seem to be on the TV a lot at the moment. So I think we're all right commercially at the moment, but we have to be more successful on the footballing side. Because if you're not successful on the footballing side, you stop being on the TV, new fans stop supporting you, and you start to deteriorate. And then when you deteriorate, brands start to look at you and go, we're not going to pay as much. There will be a tipping point, and we have to improve the footballing side of things. The second point was, and it sort of feeds into the poll, will United get top four? Now, we've had nearly 5,000 votes on this already. Keep your votes coming in. 65% of you are saying we will not get top four. Now, that fits in with an article I was reading today about some sort of predictor. You know these supercomputers or something like that. It had predicted that Man United won't get top four this season, and I thought, well, look, that's a catastrophe for Manchester United, and it's a real kick in the nuts for Sir Jim. I don't think he's responsible for us not getting top four, by the way. I think when you come in halfway through the season and your task is to improve the football side, we already know we're probably not going to get top four now, so how can it be his fault? But if we don't get top four, think of it like this. The Champions League final this year is in 2024. We're probably not going to win that, are we? If we're not in it next year, the Champions League final is 2025. We can't win it because we're not in it. Which means the first time we can win the Champions League would be our first year back in it if we qualify it, and that would be 2026. Well, that's meant to be when Sir Jim takes control of the whole club, and we wouldn't be back in the Champions League until the 25-26 season, which is massive. absolutely massive, and the ramifications of not being in the new Champions League next year for Manchester United will be huge. When we talk about commerciality, but also brand exposure, team exposure on the TV, we can't afford to have another year in the Europa League. So there are so many issues that Manchester United need to solve, and I don't know how and how quickly they will be solved, if at all. It's I wouldn't describe it as exciting because it's not what I wanted. I wanted clean slate, Glazers out, debt gone, pump a load of money in, and let's see what happens. That's not going to happen. I'm not happy about it, but I can live with it. So what is going to happen? Is it exciting? No, not for me. Is it intriguing? Yes. Do I want it to work? Of course I do. But I think it's going to be fraught with danger. And it's going to be a collection of people who on paper have fantastic CVs. Paul Mitchell, Sir David Brailsford in other sports. Blanc, brilliant CV. But can they do it? And the enormity of the job must not be underestimated. But as I said, I do feel it's the end of the Glazer reign in relation to the footballing side, because when you pinpoint some of the Glazer decisions that have been made on the rumour mill, and I'm counting them here as I go through them in my head, well, I'll start reading some of them out. Going for Paul Pogba over Jose Mourinho, not selling Anthony Martial when Mourinho told him to sell. You know, these are Glazer decisions on the rumour mill that were made, that were put to them from Ed Woodward, and they were told no. So those sort of days are over. The days where the Glazers are telling who can be sold and who can't be sold, and let's believe the players over a manager, I think those days are over, and hallelujah to that. But the enormity of the job for those people coming in, specialists or not, is going to be absolutely massive. Let's have a read of some of what you're saying. Mark always reads my worst sarcastic comments as PJ. That's why we can't have another tight-arse January transfer window. This squad won't make it top four as it is. Well, I agree with you, Endless Motion. I mean, there is just a huge swathe of issues that need solving at Manchester United, isn't there? And if we just sit back and ignore the January transfer window, then we're not in top four and we're in the Europa League when there's this big, massive, shiny new Champions League. We've got to be in the Champions League next year. We have to be in it. And I think our only chance is spending a bit of money in January and sticking with Ten Hag. I think if we change it, we're screwed. So but there are an enormous amount of jobs. Jadon Sancho, Varane, top four, results. There's so much that needs to be sorted out in such a short period of time. Sean Turner says, I understand the new wave comment, but it's decades off. Glazers will know the metrics for years to come and the streaming rights. United are unmatched if it comes in, says Sean Turner. Well, I don't disagree with you, Sean. I don't disagree with you. We will deteriorate as a brand if we don't succeed on the football pitch. But look at Man City. Man City have been winning for 10 years. They still don't have the fan base. And I don't think they'll have the fan base for 20, 30 years because it takes that long to build it. So conversely, it takes that long to lose it. I personally think the Glazers are hanging around for that TV deal. I'm absolutely convinced that the Glazers are staying around for a big payout. The only thing I don't know is how they do it. They had an option to walk away with £5.2 billion from Qatar, and they're doing a deal with Sir Jim for 1.4 for 25%. And when you add that together, it comes to about 5.6. So that's not, why would you wait 3 years for 5.6 when you could have 5.2 today and get it invested into stuff? So I don't believe that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is getting Man United because he offered 300 million more than Qatar, but they get it over 4 years. It doesn't make any sense. If I'm selling a Ferrari and Qatar come round and say, we'll give you $1 million, it's a good Ferrari, and then Sir Jim says, I'll give you 1.2 million, but I'll give it you over 4 years, I'm taking the $1 million now. I can turn that $1 million into 1.2 over the 4 years anyway. So I'm absolutely convinced there's got to be something bigger for the Glazers. And not a lot of people talk about it, but they're quite close in their bids, Sir Jim and Qatar. But Sir Jim's is over 4 years, whereas Qatar's was take the money now. There's that Sir Jim deal's got to be a lot bigger than what Qatar were offering. In which case, is it something like the Glazers don't go after 3 years at all? They stay with a minority. Maybe the Glazers Maybe the Glazers do give Sir Jim 50% and they just stay forever with 25%. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe the Glazers stay until the TV deal comes in and they pocket 7 or 8 billion. I don't know, but there will be something in there. And how comfortable would you be if the Glazers let Sir Jim have 50% at some point, so he's the majority owner, but they stay with 20%? They're still making money off the club, but they're not making decisions, but they're still part of the club. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But their day-to-day running of the footballing side is over, in my opinion. I think that's what's going to happen. Moving on, well, we can move back if anyone's got anything to say. Can he even buy the full club? If Glazers aren't selling fully to Qatar, why should they sell to Sir Jim? Well, I mean, look, Happy Hatton, I can give you loads of scenarios. What if the Glazers are not selling the club? What if they've got their investor and they're not selling the club? And what if that investor has got himself a bit of a nice niche in relation to the footballing side? What if Sir Jim Ratcliffe's happy with 25%? What if Sir Jim Ratcliffe is happy with the contract? What if he's happy with 25%, which he's always got, and he's always got control of the footballing side? Does he need 100%? He's got this vanity project to rebuild the club. That's what he wants to do. There are so many questions we don't know the answers to. And we might not know the answers to. Mark, do you think Sir Jim Ratcliffe doesn't work out? Thanks. I don't know, Orla. I really don't know. Varane De Ligt swap, deal to Debo in January. De Ligt unhappy at Bayern and Ten Hag knows him from Ajax. Jared, I want to move on to this. Pletty in Germany is saying that Bayern Munich are monitoring the Varane situation. It's a difficult deal for them to do. It's a watching brief. He's on a lot of money, and that's the story. But Varane is unhappy with his situation at Manchester United. I think that inexplicably, our best centre-back from last year, in a very good season, is now in a position where Ten Hag has isolated him for Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire. I don't know why that's happened, but yeah, again, it's a reality. You have to deal with it. If it is to be the end of Varane and De Ligt is unsettled at Bayern Munich, it might not be a bad idea. It might not be a bad idea. I get the sense that Rafael Varane doesn't want to go to Saudi Arabia yet. I think he wants to play at the highest level still, and Bayern Munich would be a very good place for him to go. Again, it's just another headache, isn't it? We know about what we've just spoken about. We know about the race for top four. We know about the Sancho situation. There are a lot of other situations, and there is also the Varane situation. I'm not surprised by... Look, if I was Bayern Munich, or I was Juventus, or I was Barcelona, or I was Real Madrid, and I heard that Rafael Varane was available, I'd look at it. Because last season, in the new camp, he was man of the match for me. And last season, I thought for a lot of it, he was massively underrated. I still think he's a top centre-back. He's younger than Harry Maguire. There is an issue around him playing 3 games a week. I think we all know that. But I still think he's a top centre-back. So there will be interest in him. Now, if we're going to move him on because of wages, we're going to move him on because of wages. If we're going to move him on because he's fallen out with Ten Hag, then we're going to have to move him on because of that. But if we're going to move him on, we better replace him with somebody decent. And if it is to be De Ligt, then maybe that's it. But what I will say about De Ligt is at Ajax, he looked like he was going to be an absolute superstar. At Juventus and Bayern Munich, I've got to say, I've not been massively impressed. I'm not saying he's been bad, but I've not been massively impressed. And I think there would be a danger if Man United brought De Ligt to the Premier League. People would think about De Ligt like this big, famous name and everything like that. But check his injury list, says Eric. But also, I think a lot of people would overhype the player. He's decent, but he's not considered in the top 5 in Europe. And that was what he was meant to be doing when he was at Ajax and he was going to Juventus. So I do think people overhype De Ligt a little bit. He almost gets mentioned in the same breath as De Jong. But De Jong is a proven top one of the best midfielders in the world, in my opinion. Whereas De Ligt, I think he's underachieved at Bayern Munich. I think he's underachieved at Juventus. So, and then throwing him into the Premier League, which is ridiculously intense, it doesn't necessarily work. So interesting, but I guess we'll have to wait and see about that. A few things I want to talk about. I'm early tonight because I'm doing the England watch along, by the way, which you can join me for in about 20 minutes. In fact, it's less than that. I better speed up. Amrabat. I wanted to talk to you about Amrabat. I may do that tomorrow, actually, but I do want to talk to you about what Andres Townsend said. So Andres Townsend played for Luton in Man United's last game, and he did an interview, and he's basically bigging up Ten Hag. basically saying Man United were really difficult to play against. We defended really well, but they take up spaces all the time. We couldn't get a hold of Bruno. The way they invert their fullbacks, it was really difficult to get the ball off them. They were so well organised. They were interchanging all the time, likened us to Liverpool and said we were a really hard team to play against, which sort of flies in the face of all those people that say we don't have a system or, you know, we don't play very well. I know what the Ten Hag system is. I know what he's trying to do, but I don't see it as visibly as much as I would like to. But you've got a guy here in Andros Townsend who's saying he played against Man United and was very impressed by it. But here ended the lesson, because Zed Goal has just said that. And Marvin IM said, look, this is a guy that retired for a year and hasn't been playing much football. True, but I think Zed Goal's got it. He plays for Luton, Mark. Yeah. We played Luton Town at Old Trafford. They were fighting for their lives. They should be very happy with the 1-0 or whatever it was. I've completely forgotten about it, because it was pants. It was a terrible performance from Manchester United. And if we're so good, why did Brighton play us off the park at Old Trafford? Why have we struggled against Man City? I mean, I think Luton are a club that's fighting for their lives and probably find everybody very difficult in the Premier League, because it's a huge, huge step up. So I don't take anything from what Andros Townsend said. I take everything from what we do against Everton on Sunday and Galatasaray next week. Those two games are absolutely massive for us, and I believe we have to win both of them. But look, I think football's a very easy game to watch. I think that's the great thing. It's universal. So many people can watch it. And I think as well, there's no hidden meaning. The game we watch isn't different from the game they play. It's not like chess where you watch things move, but they're moving for 10, 20 shot 10 or 20 moves in the future. Football is what you see. And we didn't play well against Luton. And we haven't been playing well recently. And I don't think there's any secret hidden source that you only know if you're on the pitch. I think Luton are a low-level team who did ridiculously well against Liverpool to win, to get a draw. And, you know, surprisingly kept us to, one goal. But we're in a results business at the moment. We're in survival football at the moment. I'm hoping with the likes of Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw back that we will start to see a better United with two fully operational first-choice fullbacks. But yeah, look, I'm not going to run away on the fact that Luton are bigging us up, because that's probably bigging them up a little bit, isn't it? Which is what they need. 65% of you still saying we won't get top four this season, which is, you know, I'd hoped that might be a little bit 50-50, but no. We've got 7,000 people and 65% are saying, no, we won't get top four. I have got time to do the Amrabat thing, so I will do it. England are kicking off in 10 minutes, so I've got to be quick. Amrabat, I believe, is a really significant player for Manchester United. I was reading in the Manchester Evening News today, and they were talking about sources again, saying that there was a lot of uncertainty about getting Amrabat in, and you know, a lot of people didn't think it was a good idea, but ultimately the club backed Ten Hag, and you know, it's always great, isn't it, when people leak from the club about saying they didn't want to buy a player who's only just come to the club. I mean, this is the sort of poison that needs rooting out within that football club. Who the hell is leaking to Samuel Luckhurst or any other journalist that the coaching or the recruitment were unsure about Amrabat, but they got overruled? I mean, you are paid to work for Manchester United. Have some bloody loyalty to the manager and the people that pay your wages. I think it's really indicative of the way that United have operated for the last however many years, where we get leaks about people within the club not really wanting Amrabat, but somebody else backed Ten Hag. I mean, keep your gob shut. I mean, but I do think Amrabat, in all honesty, is going to be a player that signifies Ten Hag's success. Because if Amrabat ends up being a nobody this season and we don't use him, then it's a big error of judgment by Ten Hag to bring him in a key position where we need somebody who can play next to Casemiro instead of Casemiro, or as that box-to-box number 8. If he's successful, then it vindicates Erik Ten Hag. So I'd keep your eye on Amrabat, because I think that he's almost been written off already by an uneducated and naive mainstream who didn't realise that he came into the club late and therefore missed pre-season. He was also played out of position. He's also had an injury. I think Amrabat, from December until March, the next international break, is going to be the key period. If he's a success, it vindicates Ten Hag. If he's not a success, then it does throw shade on Ten Hag that he's looking at players that maybe aren't the right fit for this league and this club. So keep your eye on that. Quick show tonight. I'm going to be on That's Football. I've got some cracking questions. What is it? What's your best ever Christmas present? What player do you miss the most and would you bring back? And what was that one? What's your hidden talent? Oh, I've got a good hidden talent. If you could go back in time, what time would you go to? And there's a good one on Jack the Ripper as well. It's going to be a shit England game, so we just talk about all sorts of stuff. I'll see you over there in about 5 minutes. We're kicking off in 8. Remember, McTominay used to get picked ahead of Casemiro at the beginning, says Jonathan. I do. And Sir Jim never wanted the New York Stock Exchange shares. He can't get all the Glazer shares without them. The Glazers staying as minority shareholders, says Glenny Boy. Yeah, good point. I think you might be on something there. Right, I'll see you over there in a moment. Thanks everyone for watching. We're going over the England watch along.